Olá, amigas e amigos do Clipping. Eu sou o Pedro e tenho aqui alguns recadinhos para dar para você antes da gente iniciar a nossa aula de hoje. O primeiro recado é que a gente está aqui na semana de revisão para o CACD 2024. Então teremos aulas gratuitas com todas as matérias da primeira fase do concurso. Então participa com a gente aí a semana inteira e faça sua revisão com os professores líderes de aprovação do concurso. O segundo recado é que a gente preparou um material gratuito muito legal para vocês, chamado Clipe de Bolso, que é um resumo de todos os temas essenciais que caem na primeira fase do concurso. O link para download está aqui embaixo, aproveite e faça o seu, ele é gratuito e vai te ajudar muito ali naquela última revisão antes da prova. Então baixa lá e depois conta pra gente o que você achou. Agora, no nosso terceiro recado, o nosso Instagram, @clippings_CACD, está com temas especiais voltados também para revisão para a prova. Então corre lá, que a gente tem vídeos e posts em colaboração com professores que vão te ajudar também aí nessa retinha final de preparação. E agora, quarto e último recado, os nossos cursos intensivos de segunda fase já estão com as matrículas abertas. Então corre lá também com o link aqui na descrição para você fazer a sua matrícula e se preparar aí com os nossos professores líderes em aprovação. Inclusive, você vai conhecê-los aí ao longo dessa semana. Faça sua revisão, estamos esperando você e torcendo por todos. Uma boa aula no dia de hoje.
Obrigado, Pedro. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone who's here. Let's get talking about this exam that's going to happen this weekend. Here's my slides. And it's going to go through what we've done in our course. Focus a little bit more. The last little tips and dicas we need to do. Eu não vou falar português. Todo mundo está falando português agora, but we're going to speak English, of course. You've been doing English courses with me already, so any questions, anything, any language you want, except for Chinese, then I'll answer them if any of the last doubts. But I think we're on the way to doing very well. So I'm going to talk about, of course, focus on the TPS because it's going to happen on Sunday. And then mention the phase 2 because we cannot ignore that the exam is going to keep going. It's a month after we've got the second phase. And if you're not focused on both of these phases, okay, then, of course, if you pass the TPS, you won't be ready. But we've got a course of that we'll be doing anyway with phase 2. So if you suddenly find you've passed the TPS because your revision has been good, then, of course, you've got to get on with us on the phase 2. But let's get going, shall we? So this year, of course, with CESP, English is a lot less, right? It's a lot less percentage as well on the course. In IAGIS, it was gave a lot more weight. But we see English with less weight in both phases in a way. But still, of course, every point is very, very important. And SEBRASPI, of course, we're going back to SEBRASPI or CESP, as we always used, to what it had in the previous government, the Bolsonaro government, into when we had Temer, Lula, and all of the other governments that they used, and before that, FHC, all of them used CESP, which I'm very happy about because having been doing this for a long time, we're used to the style of the exam and the type of questions that can fall on the exam. With the TPS, it's not really been very different, okay, in the previous years. IAGIS followed the same rules as CESP generally. So what we've done on our course over the last 7 weeks, 8 weeks, I think it is, every week we've done a simulation. Those at the start we had those really difficult ones, those really difficult simulations where lots and lots of people had lots of questions, but gradually over time, then people got used to the type of questions, got used to the style of the exam, and then we started to do, of course, everything under pressure. Now, remember, under pressure, someone asked me in the previous class how long it would take, and we've been training 30 minutes to do the 7 questions for this exam. It might take you a little bit less, hopefully not more than 30 minutes. So when you come to the afternoon session, okay, keep an eye on the time if you can on that clock, and see if you get to 30 minutes, then you move on to the next area, okay? It's a guide. It's not, it's just to give you an idea that you're in the right direction, okay? That you're finishing more or less on 30 minutes. Keeps you calm, keeps you ready. Of course, it's in the afternoon as well. So after the morning session, the afternoon, of course, you've got to keep awake. English will keep you awake. Maybe come here online and see me talking again. Maybe you don't want to see my ugly face once more, but it will help focus, because English will be the first section you'll do on the afternoon's part of the test. So we've had lots and lots of different types of questions. So let's continue. So the last CESB or CEBRASPI exam in 2018 had 8 questions actually. So it's going to be very similar. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 texts. Probably we're going to have 4 texts that do this, I think, with the 7 questions. Now we've done long texts and we've done small texts as well. And still it's come out more or less with the 7 questions, 30 minutes. Okay, because in the end, the amount of words you're going to read stay the same. Okay, so there's not really, whatever we face, I think, on Sunday, then we'll take about 30 minutes. All right, whether it's going to be 4 pages or 3 pages, we don't know. But we expect the same style of question that was with the IAGs and with CESB in 2018. There's been no real change in these type of questions. Not ones we really need to worry about. Okay, so I think I've been doing this since, I don't know, 2013 probably. I think it was 2012. I think I had my first private student wanting special classes for phase 2. And then after that, I started to look at the TPS. So we've got, I don't know, over 10 years of experience knowing that there's not really been a big change. Okay, so let's have a look at those type of questions. There are 2 real types of questions. Reading comprehension question. Now we've practiced these. They're statements about the text. All right. Sometimes they have the article or the text suggests or the author states or suggests. Okay. But really they're statements. And we've practiced. Remember, you get your magic pen. We've joked on our course. And we underline the information in the text. All right. To prove to ourselves we are right. Okay. People send me their copies of exams after, so I know what questions to look at. Okay, and I always see they're always underlining. So that's what candidates do. We need to prove to ourselves 100% that we cannot be wrong, especially with reading comprehension questions. So you see the information, you underline it, you feel happy, and then you answer if it's correct or not. Remember, if you can't find the information, then it's going to be wrong, of course. All right, but be sure. It's always being sure. All right. Some questions of reading comprehension have those negatives inside with not, or prefixes like un or dis or miss, which refers to statements in the text that also probably, because we have to be careful, have negative prefixes as well. Okay, so remember, what do? We read the statement as in always in the positive form and see if that's true or not. And if it's true or not, we've decided, then with the negative form, then we know the answer will be opposite, basically. Okay, but anyway, it's good to read those statements and put your pen over and read the statement without the negative. So it's always a positive. And then make that logical decision what the answer. This is one of the main, let's say, sacanages is probably the word, the main tricks the examiner does, okay? So that's very important to make sure that you're ready for them. So underlining the information, okay, to make sure you're right, please do it, okay? Of course, if you've got that pen that's been doing it with you, the pen knows the answers. So that's our joke for the course. So maintain that pen and, of course, use it to cover any negative areas of a statement so you can read it in a positive way. I know it's very silly, but hopefully that's what helps you remember. Okay, the other style, of course, on StreamYard, my slides come out different than on when we do it in Zoom. Okay, vocabulary is with, of course, mainly synonyms. So it's 1 for 1. Let me have a drink. So usually we have to check if you can change it without changing the meaning or the grammar. Either it's going to state that in the question at the start or within the statements, those 4 statements we're going to see, first, second, third, fourth, all they state. Be careful. If they just say the meaning, they might not refer to the grammar. If they say the grammar, they might not refer to the meaning. But usually it's without changing the meaning or the grammar. Okay, just be doubly sure. Now, we've done this. We've practiced this strategy. Stupidly difficult questions, ones you don't know, don't answer. You can try and guess from the context. We'll talk about this a bit more in the next slide, okay? If you want. There's also, so synonyms are ones you've got to be very careful with. Don't answer it if you don't know, okay? Guess if, okay, you need to have a good guess. If you're not doing, not being able to answer a lot, then of course it's going to be difficult. So you may need to be guess if there's a lot you can't do. It depends your condition. If you're doing this for the first time, you might be taking more risks. But as you get more knowledge and you've done this exam a couple of times, you'll have a better strategy. You'll have a better understanding of those styles of questions, okay? And of course, more vocabulary to be able to answer them. Now, there are grammar questions which usually use inversions or relative clauses, what, which, that, whose, and whom. We've practiced some of them. And conjunctions. Well, conjunctions is also text comprehensions, okay? So, however, furthermore, nevertheless, nonetheless, those words that, so they point the way, okay? They show us what we are reading on any contrast or any consequence of information that the text is giving, right? So, and also referencing, okay? We've got the referring usually back to information that's said before, okay? We've done those different types of referencing, okay? So, though referencing with, if it's got basically it, you should be answering that question. That should be an easy one, all right? You've got to answer that. The vocabulary synonyms, we have to be more careful, of course. So vocabulary with the synonyms, you either know or you don't know. That's when it comes down to it, okay? Stupidly difficult questions, all right, you don't want to lose points on, all right? We'd rather not answer them and not be penalized, okay? We don't want to be penalized. Every time you're penalized, you're losing ground on your competitors. So it's better always of the 3 options, get it right, get it wrong. The third option is to not answer it at all. Remember, if you can't do it, do not answer it. As I say, I always get one wrong on this exam, okay? I do it quickly, and I make a mistake. I should have maybe not answered that. taking more time. Usually that's the difficult one, the one where most people answer and they guess incorrectly as well. So if you need to guess from the context, okay? We understand the context, of course, by reading the whole text, and the connotation, usually it's positive or negative. So we've practiced reading the whole text before we answer the question. You must read the text. Don't go to the question first and then go to the text. There's other techniques that we don't need to do as we've got this half an hour. Okay, read the text first, go to the questions, look for the answers, and then answer them, and then move on. Okay, so remember, the vocabulary ones are the ones where we have to use our knowledge of English. With the reading comprehensions, we have to use our knowledge from the text. That's why we're underlining, why we practice that, okay? Be 100% sure with the reading comprehension what you're answering. With the vocabulary, okay, then there will always be that doubt. So how sure are you going to be? And we joked during the course to go with it with your gut. That's it. You're always going to be in a doubt. Am I 90% sure that's right? Okay, fine. But if I really have a really strong doubt, I'm not sure at all, please do not answer. Okay, fine. All right. Hello. Now I can see the chat. Okay. Hello, Anna, Claudia, Sofia, Leonardo, Jose, Alana, Thiago, Liza. Great to see you all here. All right. Alini, Kyle, Vanderson, Laura. Great. Sorry, I just got on with it. I'm always nervous when you go live. All right. And I'm nervous as well because the exam's coming up. And we're always hoping that something's going to fall on the exam that we've done, all right, already. The styles of questions will be the same. I don't think they're going to surprise us with anything new, especially as Seblaspi or Cespi are coming back again, all right? Phase 2 is the area where they've surprised us, but I don't expect anything from the TPS. We have been doing very, very difficult texts, all right? And I think we've been doing them more difficult than that will be on the day of the test. So fantastic. You'll find it easy, okay? You've done the simulation as well a couple of weeks ago, all right? So you feel the pressure. That's also what we've been doing, working under pressure, because that changes the way we perform as well. So I think your preparation, what we've had, what the opportunities you've had, even if it's the first time, you have a great chance of doing well. All right. If you pass, great, fantastic. Then that's the other, that's another step we have to go through. All right. But if it's your first time and you do well, that's great. It gets you ready for the next year. How many students have I had at Rio Branco when I worked there that passed first time? Well, one that was one of my students, remember Mariana, she passed with only one that I remember passing once. Okay, sorry, passing first time. All right, her boyfriend, now her husband, passed second time. He was studying with her. If you're studying with someone, I think it's always a good thing, all right? Get together and talk about the exam as well. Anyway, let me go on because I don't want to be here forever with you, okay? Let's see if there's any comments, okay? Good. Good. The other ones who've just come in as well. Hello. Now, remember, so our training was answering what you know. Have evidence to believe the statement is right or wrong, and don't answer what you think is impossible. Always those three things have got to be there, imprinted on your brain, all right, throughout this exam, all right? You can't take risks. You answer what you know, all right? If there's a lot you don't know, then you may have that decision whether to take risks or not. Okay, of course, it depends on your experience in your level of English. Some people have done very, very well on the exams. I've been surprised. I put some very extremely difficult questions on, and as we were discussing in the last classes, people did very well, and those who didn't answer those difficult questions did well too, because they knew that they weren't going to lose a score. Okay, we're going to lose any points. That's the training we're going. So those three areas are extremely, extremely important. Okay, so it's going to be in the afternoon. You may have been a long morning. You've had lunch. The most difficult part of the afternoon, got a full belly maybe, or maybe you haven't eaten at all, and that is also a problem. You must eat. Okay, must eat, maybe not a lot, and get ready for English. It's like we used to have, when I was young, we used to have a character on television called Wurzel Gummidge. He was a scarecrow, and he used to change. The scarecrow had a pumpkin on his head, and he used to change his head, all right, every time he wanted to be a different person. And in a way, you're going to have to do that from the morning, doing Portuguese and all of that information. You've got to change the way you're thinking, change your head, like Wurzel Gummidge, and then go into English. So probably it's good, listen to some English, listen to some podcasts, just to get yourself ready mentally. Okay, and wake up. I don't know if Red Bull or you should be having to keep you going, and face first these English questions. Okay. I don't know what the other teachers said, but that's what I would do. Okay, fine. So let's talk something we can't ignore, a phase two, right? To give you an idea. We want you to pass, of course, then come back and we'll get you ready for phase two. Now, phase two is completely different than the IAGES and the old CESP exams. It's only a composition and the English to Portuguese translation. Okay, I'll be doing compositions, continue to do compositions with everyone who needs it. Okay, and I've got an expert in translation, a friend of mine. Her level of Portuguese is as good as a level of English. All right, and she'll be doing that with me, Hosanna, as well. Because, of course, what's happened in the exam, in semester phase two, we have now 4 hours of exam, which would be 3 hours plus 1, 3 hours for the composition, and 1 for the translation. Now, why am I talking about this now? Because soon as you've rested, soon as you've heard us talk about these exams on Sunday night, and we've got the gabarito Monday, that we're going to calculate, of course, if you're going to pass the cut, and then boom, it's straight on. Now, we're starting next week, phase two as well. All right, start getting practice for this. Now, the difference is from the previous years, and this is going to be difficult if your first phase, if you've passed the first phase last year or previous years, it's going to be more difficult because you have to write more. Okay, we've got 65 to 70 lines, which means we've got about 3 pages, 2.5 pages to write, while in previous exams, it would only be 1.5 pages. So we have to think more and plan better and really practice writing in English. It's going to mean that you're writing more English and, of course, could have more mistakes. But the development of the ideas are also very important. Now, IAGES was a theme was always linked to modern diplomacy, negotiating, persuading, meeting, those obvious things, or how diplomacy is affected through technology, or specifically about Brazilian diplomacy and the changes it's made. So, but CESP, or CEPRASP, whatever, usually have more in-depth types of questions. If we look at what they've done, because in a way we can't compare this exam to the other ones CEPRASP do very much, okay? The translations, yeah, but not when it comes to this level of composition. So we need to go back to 2018, 17, 16 to see what types of questions. And there were more issues of today. BRICS, of course, was an issue. Patriotism, which one we'll be practicing, I think. Oh, democracy is an issue we've got today, okay? Maybe sovereignty as well. Climate, of course, everyone knows how important that is, not just to Brazil, but to the world. So they have more in-depth questions that diplomacy needs to answer. So they need to be considered a lot more. With the AGIs, I didn't think we need a lot of, if I would compare the 4 years of the AGIs, basically all of the types of questions were basically the same, and the language was the same, the organization was the same. And at the end of it, some of my students were not making even one mistake in the composition, and that's why, in a way, they made the marking system different, I thought, much more unfair. But this is not the case with CESP. We've got a lovely calculation for the exam going back to the old CESP style. CESP, of course, CESP style. So it's very clear how to mark your composition, okay? And of course, your translation, okay? So that's the thing. So as soon as we've got the TPS finished, I don't think I've got anything else here. One more, no. So as soon as we have the TPS finished, you've had lots of practice, and fingers crossed, you know, I'll be, I don't know, in the afternoon, sitting there nervous, worried about what's going to go on the exam, and praying that they're using the types of text we've used. As I said, we've used a lot more difficult ones, but we've used the style of text, I think, will come on the exam. The type of questions as well. All right, look at the adjectives and verbs for synonyms will be the main ones. Remember, reference questions, please make sure you do them, okay? And use that pen. Now, if you want to go back, we did, of those 7 simulations, we did do them again, right? Do them once more. I think you can print them off. I'm sure they're still on the course. Print them off, because maybe you did it on the screen here, all right? But if you can print them off, hopefully, then print them off and even go start practicing with your underlining, all right? So I think that's it at the moment. There's a lot less English in the TPS than before. So the emphasis has moved. With this government, they seem to always have a less emphasis on English. And I'm surprised the change has been made with CESP to also have, in a way, a little bit less emphasis. The composition on the second phase is which will be very much more demanding, more demanding than previous concursos, okay, as a composition. But there's no summary and no translation into English. So that's why the exam is only 4 hours. So you've got plenty of time to do those 2 texts, all right? But it needs practice. Now, I don't know what else you need to say from me. Just think of those 3 areas that have got to be imprinted. Don't really make any, don't take any risks. Answer what you know, okay? Underline the information so you've got clear evidence. And if not, I'm going to keep repeating myself on the same thing, okay? And that's it. There's nothing I can teach you now. It's for you to get ready for the afternoon and be prepared. I'm always going to be here on Sunday. When I get the exam, I'm going to give my opinion on it. What were the difficult questions? And please come and talk to me as well. I'll be happy to hear from you and what you think. I'm praying it's exactly what we've done. And I think with all of the teachers, we're going to be checking this exam. It's a new exam board. All right, so there might be some differences that we haven't considered. That's what our worry is. But I think we've covered nearly everything that could possibly come. Okay. Good. I think that's it for today. I don't think there's anything else. I can't see any questions here on my board. Maybe there are. Okay. And good. I think, Laura, good question. We review the synonyms on this week. I think what you can do is go through those simulados that we've done, okay? And we've tried to do those style of questions. You can go, also you can go back to the 2018, 2017, and 2016 CESPI, CEBRASPI exams. You know, you can go to Google and get it, find it there. You go CESPI, IRBR, and the year 2017, and then you go to the page and you can do those ones, those questions as well there. It's better to stick to the style of questions, because it's not necessarily, you're not going to get any more new vocabulary necessarily, okay? You've got to use what you know to answer those questions, all right? Because they don't really use the same vocabulary in previous exams. It's always going to be new, all right? So it's better to do the style of question, because then you're practicing. If you don't know, you know, if you're guessing, basically, if you've got that feeling in your belly, okay, in your gut, that you're right as well. Because if you're not doing very well and you haven't answered many questions, then probably you're going to have to guess, all right? But if you're doing well and you've answered all the questions and you leave one or even two unanswered, I think that's fine, okay? Don't see any problem with that. Lots of people answer them all, but you know, it's not recommended with English you answer them all, because there is going to be that one that is a very high level. Remember, we talk about different levels of English, and these are all high level questions of English, all right? There's some that are so high level that even I would get wrong, all right? Well, not get wrong, but maybe if I didn't check it properly, I would make a mistake, all right? So don't consider that answering everything is the best strategy. Okay, what Eleni said, could provide us with the more important newspapers or magazines to learn vocabulary? Well, now we've changed to CESPI. Then we're looking at regularly reading, of course, The Economist, The Guardian, okay? Those ones basically that when we had the previous Chancellor Araújo, he said, don't read them, basically. He said, they're not the ones you should be reading, all right? You should be reading different ones. It was very funny. New York Times, you have to pay for the New York Times, all right? I think the more difficult is the Spectator as well as good. Foreign affairs is also good, but ones we don't have to pay for, okay? The Economist is usually the one, but when you get candidates who've passed, and when they were in my class at Rio Branco, they would just say that the best thing about The Economist was they learned more geography from it, okay? Those issues around the world that they didn't know were happening, all right? But The Economist, yeah, the New York Times, as Bianca said, foreign affairs is fine. The vocabulary is fine for really the second phase, not necessarily the first phase, because the texts we use are very advanced. So they come from sometimes academic texts, books on diplomacy from Oxford or Cambridge. They usually fall in the first one. Theories of diplomacy as well. And I doubt it'll be as much, let's say, literature. People are saying that literature, but CESPI tend to use less literature. I don't expect Shakespeare to come up, but saying that, probably it will come up on the exam. We've done poetry. New Statesman's, Felipe, you mentioned the New Statesman and Spectator have, like the Times, very, very high level. So they're quite good for TPS, okay? But a bit late now with the exam coming up, all right? But The Economist, New York Times, the Foreign Affairs, and the Guardian are things that are, I think you can read the New York Times like The Economist if you subscribe a number of different articles, a limited number of articles, okay? The Economist is free anyway. I subscribe to it as well because I feel I've got to pay for anything I read. All right. Okay, that's a good one, Kai. The Cradle is not something I've looked at, okay? All right. Yeah, if it's got a third worldist perspective, that's probably good for this government and the way it's looking at. Okay, very good tip, Kaio. I will check that out too, and maybe look at some text from that. It's how well it's written. Also, Al Jazeera is very well written. Okay, that's also, I forgot Al Jazeera actually this year. Al Jazeera has very well written texts, okay, and has, of course, a different perspective than the New York Times or the Guardian or the Times or other styles. You know, it's more critical, so it's good. So in a way, it's better to stay to newspapers. Of course, literature is good, but you need time for literature. All right, short stories in the New Yorker I like very much. Okay, it's very good. But yeah, these different sides of diplomacy, not necessarily, I don't know if the style of writing has great vocabulary, okay? Because TPS demands a very high level of text, all right? When we look at diplomatic writing, that's great for phase 2, looking at that vocabulary for phase 2, the style of writing that they're using. But we do all of that anyway on the courses. If you've done the extensive course with me, then you'll be familiar with that style of vocabulary, which I'll be doing a lot more this year with the extensive course, because we've got really one composition and one translation. So I think that the range of vocabulary necessary will be more as well, because of course we're more limited, only 4 hours instead of 5, 2 texts instead of 4, okay? But the style of text for TPS is usually higher and comes from maybe sometimes academic texts as well. Good, fine, okay. That's it for today. Fingers crossed, everything's going to go all right, okay. Take your time, be awake, okay. Change your head, as I said, use the pen, answer what you know, and then you'll be fine, okay? I will see you on Sunday night, okay? As well, talking about the exam. Always difficult for us teachers to talk about the exam before the gabaritar comes out. It's such a risk because the examiner is always going to think of something different, especially in English, all right? But there we are. That's the risk we have to take if we're doing this level of concourse. All right, many people would not be able to describe this level of English you need, and sometimes I have a lot of difficulty too. All right, so, but I think we've done enough. Lots of simulados, we did under pressure, styles of question. Go back to those simulados I've done at Clipping, all right? They're very good, they're very high level, and good luck. All the best. Ciao, ciao. Beijo from the gringo. All the best. Bye-bye.